Alrighty, well, it is 3 o'clock on the dot Eastern Time. We are happy to have everyone here. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ansley Sutter, Social Media Training and Communications Coordinator with ForRent Media Solutions. Appreciate your time with us. Today's session, we are going to cover the variety of ways you can win your residents by operating with a, quote, clean slate mentality. So if you're not quite wrapped your head around the concept, no worries. I will break it down for you. But before we get started, we are using the hashtag FRMSChat. You see it at the bottom left of my screen here, and we will be using this hashtag throughout the entire session. So make sure you get social with us, and you are using this hashtag on Twitter. This is great if you have any feedback, any questions, or maybe some insight. Feel free to use the hashtag, and you will be rewarded for using this. So one randomly selected person will receive a $20 gift card for using this hashtag, and this is going to be based on your participation. So this is going to be something that we are excited to implement in all of our FR Social or FR Social sessions and our FRMS chats. What we'll do is we will announce the winner at the end of the session. So feel free to hang out with us for the hour. And also one other housekeeping tip I want to share. We are going to be using GoToWebinar for today's session. So if you've sat on any of these, you've become familiar with it. If this is your first time, you have a GoTo panel available to you. And you can use that to ask questions during the session as well if you are not active on Twitter. So there's a couple avenues for you to interact with us. We love your participation. We will reward your participation. So that's just something I wanted to share with you. So more times than not, I'm going to answer your question along the way, but if I don't, I'm happy to reach out to you via Twitter toward the end of the webinar, as well as I will shoot you an email if you send a question through the GoTo meeting panel. So before we go over our agenda today, I want to quickly explain why we talk about social media every month. And if you're not familiar with FR Social, this is your chance, your opportunity to check that off the list and get in touch with your ForRent account rep. And for FR Social, what this is going to do for you is it's a suite of tools exclusive to you, exclusive to ForRent customers only. FR Social is a social media solution made easy. We could use a lot of easyology in our life today, right? And that's what this product is meant to do for you. What this does is it's going to concentrate on management, advertising, listening, and education, and this is going to save you time, making social marketing easy for you. So we're really doing this whole easyology concept, okay? The package includes tools designed to enhance your audience engagement, improve your online reputation, allow you to listen a little bit better in the social space, and drive more leads to you. And FR Social positions you to gain a competitive edge by utilizing social media for your brand. So everyone's on social media these days, right? Well, if you're not there, FR Social is going to position you to do that. And this is why we touch on social media every month, because social media is such an integral part of any business model nowadays. The goal is to onboard and train you on Facebook, on Instagram. Maybe you want to learn a bit more on Pinterest, or you want to see how you can humanize your brand on Vine. These are the tools we're going to equip you so you can be able to really involve yourself in the online conversation. So like I said before, if this is something you've been meaning to do just to get a little bit more information, feel free to get in touch with your ForRent rep and they can help you out. So let's get into our agenda today, and we're going to talk about what a clean slate brand is. You may not be so sure as of right now what this even is, but you just came to the webinar because it was free, and we're happy to have you here. But what we're going to do is break down the concept of a clean slate business model, and then we'll go over some examples of what we could define as a clean slate brand. Then we're going to get into the application part where I will share ways that current property management companies and properties are the ways that they're shifting resident sentiment, ways that they are maybe building a better community culture, and also they're going to instill some convenience in the life of their residents and prospects. And then lastly, you see here that we're going to be sharing some valuable links and taking a few questions and giving you some answers as well. Before we get into the meat of our presentation, I kind of want to share how I came across this topic. I go to a website called trendwatching.com quite a bit to get new and fresh ideas, and the light bulb went off when I uncovered this topic. And it's something that's not really addressed in the multifamily industry, but it should be, because name changes and acquisitions happen all the time in our industry, but we really don't know how to interact with residents and prospects if something like that happens. So I hope that this puts things into perspective, and we're going to talk about what defines a clean slate brand in the social space today. So in a world where history and longevity once won consumers over, brands are attracting consumers with different approaches. So history is great, but what if you're a property management company, or maybe you're an apartment community that has just been recently established? Whether that be, an acquisition or a newly constructed property, you're starting from ground zero, right, when it comes to establishing yourself. So there is no heritage, there is no history. This may seem daunting, but the great news is that history and heritage are great, but they no longer take precedence in the social space. You may very well be a new property or a newly acquired property, but you might be offering a better product and living experience than the property who's been down the street for the last 25 years. So how do you match up to these properties that have time on their side, and how can you get a level playing ground with them? First, you need to know what characteristics are going to give you a level playing field and an advantage over competing properties. We live in an age of the now where newer, better, faster, cleaner, and more transparent and more responsive brands are appealing to the online consumer. So in past FRMS chats, we've talked about the importance of reciprocating conversation and engaging with your residents in a time-sensitive matter, right? We've talked about ways that you can reciprocate that conversation, do's and don'ts of when, a resident leaves a comment on your Facebook page. How fast do you need to respond? How long is too long? So we've talked about that before, and it's coming back to this session we're having here, where we're seeing that winning brands and brands that really convert their consumer into a brand advocate are engaging with them in newer, better, faster, cleaner, all these different ways that really appeal to this age of now. So the question is, what you need to be asking yourself really throughout this entire session is, where do you stand? Is your current social strategy or business model set up to be relevant? Is it set up to be fast and authentic and responsive? Well, if not, we're going to go over some of the ways you can really help yourself move in this direction. Now that we know what characteristics make up a clean slate brand, the newer, the faster, the better, the more responsive, the more transparent, we need to look into the business model, or what kind of defines a clean slate brand. Clean slate business model, it's quite simple, which means, thumbs up for you. It's great because it's less time for you to grasp the concept. In an effort to attract and win consumers, businesses inject new, fresh, and unconventional tactics. So there's this whole newism effect that's taking place across every vertical. They also aim to build trust by having a positive reputation online. We've talked a lot about reputation, social listening, and it's, again, coming back into this session here. So brands that are gaining instant trust, they're also easy to recognize, meaning that they're well established in the social space. Maybe they're present on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, and their hashtag is the same, or their handle on all of these social channels is the same. So they're easy to recognize, which means these brands have a strong brand presence. Lastly, they operate openly. What this means is they're operating with transparency, which makes consumers feel like stakeholders rather than just a number. And it's going to make them feel more involved and more part of the process. So again, rather than having just a number or someone at unit number so-and-so and so-and-so, this is resident Sarah or Bob so-and-so. Like, you know their name, you know that they are a brand advocate for your community, and you're retaining them that way. So like I said, we live in an era of instant gratification, and we as consumers are expecting bigger, newer, better all the time. As marketers, we are meeting that demand by constantly creating new products, right? We're constantly revamping our services and experiences on a daily, if not hourly basis. So as a result, the term, quote, new and improved, how many times have we heard that or, seen that on a ketchup bottle when we know that ketchup tastes the same, or we've seen it on a shampoo bottle when we're, doing the same job. So this whole term new and improved doesn't really mean much anymore. It's been beaten into the ground and been devalued. So what we need to do is, instead of slapping the label new and improved on one of our products or services, this creates a new opportunity for us as marketers to promote and advertise from a completely different approach, where the new is not a revamped version of the same thing, but the new is an entirely fresh experience overall. So rather than the same old, adding fresh, engaging content to your social strategy definitely sounds better than, repeating the same message you've been repeating for the last however many years. Share relevant news rather than talking about yourself. We all cannot stand, self-serving brands, so don't become one of them. Ask questions, engage, share images, and ask residents to, caption that image. Find fresh, not stale, energizing, pure, not salty content to share with your residents and prospects, and you'll be so surprised how much engagement you will garner rather than repeating the same old message. So much of a leasing professional's job is to do just that, lease, right? We can't get around it. We have to make those numbers. We have to get as close to 100% occupied as we can. That's just something that's been built into the business model and job description of a leasing professional. But what if you came from a completely different approach? So what if you still met those numbers? What if you still were, meeting the goal of getting close to 100% occupied, but what if you were doing it in different ways rather than having that floppy air guide outside of your community that we all get annoyed by? What if you're taking different approaches than kind of having that used car salesman mentality? What if you went to Pinterest and pinned an image of your property and shared the link to that floor plan on your website in the description? Imagine that. You can have something that looks just like that, and you're active on Pinterest. Did you know that a call to action pin on Pinterest sees an 80% increase in engagement? And Pinterest is retaining and engaging users 2 to 3 times as efficiently as Twitter. Mind-blowing, right? So not only are people signing up for Pinterest still, they are actually staying and using the platform daily. So what about if you took a new approach to leasing and you took a picture of your gorgeous community and you introduced a short description, and you introduced some hashtags, and you gave the lowest pricing of your floor plans? That's going to open the door for anyone in the Pinterest space. What if they weren't even looking for an apartment home because they didn't think that people marketed like that? That means you're in the monopoly in Pinterest. That means you're the first to ever do it in this space. So whenever relevant, you want to be adding pricing and hashtags to your description. If you have a range of pricing for your floor plans, like I said, you'll want to list the lowest price so that people can see, the plethora of floor plans and pricing once they get to your website. This is great, so once a prospect lands on your website from that pin, they can see all the floor plans and all the pricing that you offer. So again, kind of think outside of the box, be unconventional. Gaining and keeping consumer trust is vital to any business, especially when you're in the marketing, when you're marketing, or leasing a product like an apartment home. You're not just selling, a random product. You're ensuring that your community is going to keep your residents and their possessions and loved ones and animals safe, right? For that, at least for that year lease. So last month we talked about promoting amenities like an on-site security guard or, a gated community, since those are two big amenities that appeal to apartment shoppers. So once they sign that lease, promoting these features is still very important. Don't think your job is done here. You want your residents to be able to, quote, trust fall into your arms and be able to say, you know what, I could move if I wanted to. My lease is coming to an end, but why? This apartment community is meeting all my needs. The staff is responding to my maintenance requests. They're responding to my emails. They are, the gate stays closed and it's operated nicely. The on-site security guard is great. Even if you don't have these amenities, there are things that are so important to apartment shoppers and prospects and residents that once they become a resident, they're not going to want to leave because it's too much work to have to find another place to live and you're meeting all their needs. So I'm going to share a couple examples with you just to kind of put things in perspective. And here you see RAM Partners is sharing how proud they are of their maintenance tech, Steve Cook, who is being recognized as a marvelous maintenance star. So this is a great example of, number one, giving your team members a shout out and giving them that recognition. And as we all know, recognition and shout outs and acknowledgement helps prevent turnover. So that's already taken care of. And then number two, with this Facebook post, you're engaging with your audience in the social space, and this indirectly tells residents that they have a top-notch maintenance tech at their property. So you're killing two birds with one stone here. You're giving him the recognition he deserves. You're preventing turnover by giving your staff that recognition, and you're not being self-serving, but you're indirectly telling your residents that, hey, why would you want to go anywhere else? We have a top-notch, marvelous maintenance star at our property. And we all know that fulfilled maintenance requests play a huge and integral role in retaining residents. So sharing content like this is great. You're retaining your staff and you're retaining your residents. Again, appealing to the emotions is a way to earn instant trust. And again, we see here that RAM turned an unfortunate event into a positive by recognizing the fast-reacting local fire department when a fire broke out at the community. Again, they did a great job of recognizing the on-site team, so you're retaining your team, you're giving them a shout-out, and indirectly they're showing how responsive this particular property is when it comes to dire situations. So we've all seen those security commercials where, it has that, burglar in black going in and raiding someone's house, and the person whose house was broken into is so happy that they had XYZ security company to be on call. Well, this is what any type of commercial, any type of promotion is going to do. It's going to play on your emotions. It's going to try to put you in that setting where you feel like it's happening to you, but they're come to save the day. So the same thing that is happening on TV, like these advertising commercials, is happening within the social space here. And this is a great example of, again, giving your team a shout out, as well as indirectly letting your apartment shoppers and residents know that we care. So let's talk a little bit about open operation. And most brands used to and still do operate in a world where they are the main communicator with the consumer. But now brands are creating a more transparent front by including influencers like experts, like bloggers, and their online community and their friends and family in the communication, in the conversation. So in the social space, companies and communities are required and we expect them to be diligent when it comes to accurately and clearly conveying their intent, showing their authenticity, and under-promising and over-delivering, right? We expect that nowadays as consumers. So neglecting any of these areas could ignite severe social consequences if you're not doing so that may cause irreversible damage to a brand's reputation. So make sure that you are operating openly, because it could, ignite a mob mentality or something like that in the social space. Make sure you're listening in the social space so that if something does occur, you can face it head on. And one thing you can learn from clean slate brands is that communication is always a two-way and participatory mode of communication with influencers. So one thing, of older, maybe more established brands and apartment communities struggle with changing is the fact that they don't know how to have multi-way communication. Their business model and their model is only set to go from communication straight to the customer. So let me ask you this: how valid and how credible do you find a brand who says, we're great, we offer the best quality product, we do so and so? I mean, I'm not going to believe it 100%, but if I am interacting with a brand where my first interaction with this brand is from my friends and family who say, oh my goodness, have you tried X, Y, and Z? Have you, I know you're looking for an apartment community to live in. I know your time is short. Have you tried so-and-so? I live here and I love them. It makes it more credible because it's going from your friends to the brand rather than the brand going straight to you, okay? So that's one thing you can really think about and change your business model. So if you're a property management company, maybe that you've been around for 20 plus years, you should most certainly take pride in the fact that you've been around for so long. I'm not knocking that. Time and longevity is something to be proud of. But don't be too prideful in thinking that your business model is relevant in the social age if it's not. You really need to face the fact that there could be some tweaking involved. You're not completely changing your brand identity, but you're getting up to date with the times. You may have some reservations when thinking about inviting your residents, prospects, people who advocate for your brand into the conversation, and you might have some reservations in thinking that they could potentially help shape your brand. But on the contrary, consumers find that brands are more transparent. Brands that are more transparent and allow their consumers to contribute feel more control and are intent on safeguarding the brand's reputation. That's called a brand advocate. That's what you want. So remember last month when we talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs? What this does is it speaks to the basic human desire of belonging and finding meaning. So when you have someone that's a part of your open operation of your business model, when you have brand advocates that are safeguarding your brand and are part of shaping your brand, your consumers become part of the process. They become stakeholders. They become invested. And you have residents that are ultimately retained. So before we get into the next session, I want to take a second to share an opportunity for you to win $500. I hope I got your attention there. We invite you to share your insights with us with FRMS by taking this brief survey, and you will be entered for a chance to win $500 by taking the survey. It's not long at all. We know time is money, so we made it short for you, and we want you to tell us what you think. That's all. We can't create products and services for you if we don't know what you want. So for more information on FRMS, on our diverse marketing solutions, contact Discover More at ForRent.com. We can give you some more information there. We've just sent out the link. If you're on Twitter with us right now, you should be seeing a link from our Twitter handle, Apartments ABTS for Rent. Make sure you follow us there and stay in touch with the hashtag, because we are tweeting out links to things that like this and other resources that I'll be sharing throughout the session. And we've just shared that with you. So make sure that, you take a look at it. If you want to fill it out, we would be obliged, and you would be entered to win $500. It's a win-win. Alrighty, so now that we have insight on a clean slate business model, let's take a look at some brands that follow this approach, okay? So the brands that you see here all share the commonality that they're not perfect, they're flawsome, they know that public is the new private, they know that they're operating openly. Admitting fault was taboo in the past. You never admitted wrongdoing or that you messed up as a brand. It just was something that back in the day was pretty much like brand suicide. But admitting that you have faults and admitting that you messed up from time to time, which we all do, because guess what? There are humans behind the guise of a brand, right? What this does is it's not only going to humanize a brand, it's going to win consumers. Nothing wins instant trust and displays open operation like a brand that admits to fault openly and does something about it. So an example of a clean slate brand is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, for most any vertical, is the prototype for almost every brand that aims for time-tested longevity. Yet they've repeatedly tweaked and updated their business model to reflect what's new and relevant. How are they doing that? Well, you see here that they ran an Instagram campaign called #TakeItToThePark, where they used crowdsourcing to generate thousands of photos from Instagram users and Coke advocates, and they shared their images of their favorite park. Simple, right? We've talked about how you can run an Instagram campaign before, and Coke was, hit it out of the park with this one. You wouldn't have seen something like that from Coke even 5 years ago. I mean, number one, because Instagram didn't exist 5 years ago, but number two, it was just something that, major brands didn't do. But the great thing is that Coke is a brand that sees the value in social media and embraces it. So like I said, if your brand or your property management company has been around for so many years, you need to talk to your C-suite people, talk to your VPs, talk to people that really get the ball rolling and make the decisions, and give them examples of other brands that are embracing social media and that are successful at it. And maybe that will help them kind of put their reservations aside. We all know the spotlight Domino has had to face in the past. We all know of that horrible video that went viral. But rather than sticking their head in the sand, Domino's collectively sent out on a mission to better their product by way of raw, honest transparency. So the slogan, "Oh yes we did," was and still is a take on the fact that this brand has nothing to hide. Oh yes we did. Domino's has not only earned instant trust, but urges its consumers and customers to give feedback, since that's the only way that the brand can know how to improve. So you see here that they're operating openly with tweets. You see here that they're sharing a tweet that someone is deciding between Domino's, Papa John's, or Chinese. Like, any other brand would want to hide that if they're promoting their competitors. The great thing about Domino's is that they're being completely transparent here and integrating this whole open operation into their business model. This is something that, yeah, it's a pizza company, but this is something that we can really adopt into the multifamily space, no? So just keep in touch with some of these examples I'm sharing and figure out how you can scale them to reflect your social strategy. This was a very bold but very successful campaign they're running right now. So once instant trust has been established, the word of mouth factor really grows. We've talked about word of mouth versus word of mouse, and word of mouth is the same thing as word of mouth, but the thing is, rather than having, talking about a product or service or something that you like with your core group of people, word of mouth takes it even further and more exponential to share that review or rating or that feedback in the social space. So word of mouth is like, someone sharing a review on Amazon.com and thousands upon millions of other people seeing that rating or review. So you're taking it up a notch. The smart brands are finding ways to leverage that whole idea of open operation by creating places where consumers can share their stories on company-powered forums. So you're still, controlling the message here. You're still controlling where people are going, but brands like Toyota Camry, where owners give nostalgic accounts of how their cars play into their life story, they're taking it up a notch from, rather than just providing a car, we want to know how this car plays into your life. Like, what role does it play in your life? And Southwest is doing the same thing. We're seeing companies retweet and comment on tweets and Facebook posts and sharing real-time experiences. That's what we're doing today. Hashtag FRMS chat is something that we're doing to be a part of the conversation with you, rather than standing from the outside. You have insight, you have questions, you have feedback you want to share. Well, this is the perfect avenue, FRMS chat. We always come to the point in all of our sessions where you're thinking, all right, that's great, but what am I going to do with all of this information? Like, how am I going to scale it and apply it for my brand? Okay, so this is what you're going to do. You are going to, first off, realize that your community is not that much different than these big brands we just mentioned. Come to terms with the fact that you can adopt and implement trends that big brands like Coke, Southwest, MailChimp, Loft, all of these brands, Domino's, you can adopt these trends and implement them into your strategy. There's no excuse not to. In any vertical, brands and apartment communities like you thrive when you shift sentiment, when you build community culture, and when you offer convenience to your residents and your prospects. So first we're going to talk about how you can shift sentiment. We all know that about the power of ratings and reviews. It's been beaten over our heads for the last however many months when this topic came into the multifamily industry, right? We have been harping on ratings and reviews because they're so important and vital to the multifamily space. We've all seen the stats that speak to that, but what are you going to do with that information? I hope you're not sitting there right now oohing and ahhing at this stat like that's going to fix the problem at your community. Guess what? It's not. You need to take in this information, but what are you going to do about it? What you need to do about it is you need to take action and seize the opportunity to get a 3-star or plus 3-star or higher review from your residents. That's the goal, right? How can you do this? We all have trouble of, all right, we know that we have these rock star residents that say nothing but great things about us, but that's great if it's between you and them, but how can you get it on the social space to allow apartment shoppers and prospects to see this? I mean, it's as good as nothing if you don't have new people, prospects, and apartment shoppers seeing these great reviews. So what we've done for you is we always try to come save the day for you. We have created a printable PDF of 3 heavily used review sites in the industry. So we ask people, you probably want people to go to Yelp or Google Plus or apartment reviews to leave great feedback about your community, but how do you do that? Well, we have a PDF. We're gonna tweet that link to you right now, hashtag FRMS chat. And simply, you're going to print out the PDF we send you or that you get from this link, and you're going to cut them out or send them to your professional printer to be printed on cardstock if you want them to be a little bit thicker. These are going to be business size or business card dimensions, so they come out in the size of a business card. And either way, regardless of if you send them to a professional printer or if you print them in-house on just a piece of paper, you will have these sitting on your desk in the leasing office. So the next time your resident has a great experience, or the next time you finish a walkthrough with a prospect, what you're going to do is you're going to hand them the card of your choice and ask, or all if you want, and ask them to share that experience. You need to figure out ways to capture and seize your opportunities to get these 3-star and higher reviews before the warm and fuzzies go away and someone doesn't feel compelled to leave that review. So we've just tweeted that with you just a second ago. Make sure you're following us on Twitter and you're using hashtag FRMSchat to be able to get that link so you can get that PDF and print it and be able to seize your opportunity. Another great example of seizing the opportunity is asking. Just ask. Nothing beats failure like a try. In this example you see here, RAM has invited residents to leave reviews on their new Google page. It's as simple as that, is asking, whether that be in person and you hand them a card, whether you tweet it out and send a link to your Google Plus page or your Yelp page or anything like that, or whether you're on Facebook. Make sure you're asking. You'd be so surprised as to how much response you get if you just ask. Clean slate brands do a great job of finding this sweet spot within 2 areas. The sweet spot is what's relevant within the circle of what you think is important, and then what really interests the audience. Finding that content that's relevant to your brand and your audience is a start to building great community culture. You might feel like you're shooting in the dark here. You might feel like your current attempts at engagement aren't working, and they may not be. This means that you need to do one very, very important thing here. You must creep. The best way to get to know your audience is to give them fresh, new, and relevant content is to observe. Believe it or not, much of marketing, sales, and leasing deals with understanding your audience. Observation is vital to creating community culture. You're not going to know what to talk about or how to interact if you're not present in the social space and you're not observing the kind of content that they're sharing themselves. It's so important to know why consumers, residents, and prospects make the decisions they do. So, you can call it creeping. We like to call it stealthy observation, potato. Regardless, this is something that you need to do. You can also build a one-of-a-kind community culture by inserting your community in the conversation. Do not wait to be invited, people. You will not get an invitation. There's no need to worry about how to start the conversation because it's already going on all around us. I mean, if you're on Twitter right now, you see how many tweets are coming in. If you're on Instagram, you see how many photos are flooding your Instagram timeline. It's more important that you connect because that content is already happening threefold. So the Woodlands at Capitol Way is an apartment community managed by RAM. They stole my little social media loving heart by posting a board with all of their social handles. And you see here they have a custom hashtag. How great is that? I just fell in love when I saw this. This is what I'm talking about. Social media is so powerful, but you must make it easy for others to connect with your brand. If you build it, they will come, does no longer work. You have to bring it to them. You have to share, your handles on Twitter and your handles on Instagram, on Facebook, and share your custom hashtag if you've created one for your community. So this is something that is so important. Above anything else you learned today, the first step is to connect with your residents, prospects, and anyone else in the social space. This is really important if you just acquired a property, if you're a property management company who has just acquired a property, or maybe there's, a completely new leasing team because you've acquired that property. First thing to do is put a face with a name and introduce your team. Well, okay, how are you going to do that? You can't have a meet and greet with your residents. People don't have time. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? You can't have a meet and greet. What you really need to do is find innovative ways to introduce your team and build that instant trust and open operation in the social space. So a great way to humanize your brand and make things a little less stiff is to, take headshots of your team, great visuals, we're in the visual age, right? And make sure they're all uniform and appealing to the eyes, and upload these to Pinterest or upload a photo, share an Instagram photo, each of the people on your team, and give a little description and, include a hashtag of your property. So there are various ways that you can introduce your team to, apartment shoppers and your residents, especially if you're in the position where you're having to earn their trust all over again. You can, from leasing to maintenance to corporate to on-site, this really works for everyone and gives you that brand exposure. So make sure that if you're on Pinterest, you're on Instagram, and you upload an Instagram image of, any new team members, share a little blurb about them, and make sure that you are using a community-centric hashtag. You also can create a sense of community with resident events. We talked about how you can host resident events to promote social hospitality last month, right? Residents events that are relevant to the demographic of your property are a slam dunk. So you see here the Woodlands at Capitol Way saw that there was a large group of females living at that property, so they decided to host a girls' night out. Who doesn't love G&O, right? Am I wrong? This is something that appeals to everyone, regardless of age, ethnicity, any of that. You're going to show how diverse your community is by hosting things like that. Maybe you want to host a tailgating day, or, like something for a guy's night. Think of ways to think outside of the box. And you saw that they created an event for this. You saw that they got instant feedback. And another touch is the women there left with goodie bags. And they actually said, we're getting ready for girls' night, hope to see you there. And they shared this image of the goodie bags to incentivize people to come. So this is something that's so important and something that is seamless. You could definitely do it maybe every month or every quarter if you want. We had a question come in, and I'm going to share this question now since we are on the topic, that it asks, what are some tips to convince our management team to let us post their headshots on social media? Great question. This comes up all the time. Thank you for your question. So people get a little bit reluctant when they're like, oh no, my identity is going to be released, things like that. What I suggest is, one way to convince them is like we're saying, I don't see any hurt in saying, all right, let's try to humanize our brand a little bit more. We're going to gain trust, especially if we just acquired this property. Maybe you haven't even acquired property. Maybe that you're wanting to engage with your residents and prospects a little more. Make sure you get permission, so maybe like a photo release, and you're sharing, that headshot of your new team member at your property. So it's not a headshot of them at their house. You're literally taking the photo with your smartphone of them in the leasing office. So it's setting the tone that, this is the only place you're going to see them. And you're sharing their first name. Maybe you don't share their last name until a resident comes into the leasing office, and you're sharing a hashtag. That's what I suggest. And if someone doesn't want to do that, there's other ways that you can really introduce. If you have like some type of resident event where you're doing a resident appreciation event, and this is your time to introduce people to your team. There are different ways that you can do that. Okay, so we're going to move right along here. and we're going to talk about how you can recognize your rock star residents. So you're not part of a community if no one knows who you are, right? What better way to retain residents by giving them a shout out and showing them your appreciation? This is, again, another hot topic where a resident may not want their photos shared. This is something that's so important, is getting those those photo releases. We've talked to Nadine Green in the past where she said it's vital to get photo releases if you're going to do that. The same thing goes with social, and we're actually having a Q&A session with Nadine in the fall that's going to talk about the do's and don'ts of, legalities within the social space. This is something we never talk about. So while I'm on the topic, make sure you send in your questions if you have any questions regarding legalities within the social space, like what can I do, what can't I do. We're going to have a Q&A in a couple months with Nadine where she's going to answer all of your questions. But back on the topic, this is going to make them feel recognized. It's going to acknowledge them. And you're not even really sharing their last name. You don't even have to share their first name. This is something that you can do to give them that recognition that's so important. Another thing that you can do to build community culture is be less self-serving and share content that's relevant to your residents. Decor tips are always a hit, and they always allow residents to not only envision themselves living in a space, but it can make them feel like their apartment is home. I mean, this is something that's not going to go against your rules and regulations if you have stipulations on what kind of like size nails you can put in the walls or anything like that. This is a neat idea for your living room and a great way to reuse old pallets. This is something that someone can do in an apartment community. Capitol Place at Southwood did a great job of making their residents feel like, okay, I can create this space to be my home. If you're catching on, a good amount of what I'm sharing with you is visual content. The visuals are speaking, paces around what I could say if I gave you bullet points of words. Users online are more likely to engage with brands if the brand posts pictures versus any other type of media. So make sure you're getting visual with your content that you're sharing to build community culture. If you need a jump start on being more visual, ForRent Media Solutions, FRMS, we're making it easier for you than ever to stay on trend with highly visual marketing solutions that could really fit any budget. Visual currency these days is the currency of choice for today's consumers. People want visuals more than anything else. And according to Satisfax, 53.9% of renters prefer their cell phones as a primary contact method. We interact online more than ever, but the opportunity to engage with residents and prospects still remains important. So how are we going to do that? Well, an overwhelming percent, like we saw, of renters prefer to be contacted via a mobile device. So with FR Mobile's high-impact visual tools, it's the perfect medium for showcasing your community. So by incorporating an engaging diverse mix of visual tools into your upcoming 2014 marketing strategy, yes, we're already having to plan out 2014. You should be as well. Including print, web, mobile, social, and video will help you maximize your reach and help you gain leads. So we've just tweeted out a link, hashtag FRMS chat. If you're on it, you should see that link that you can get more information on how you can use visual currency in your 2014 marketing strategy. Make sure you click that link and you can get more information that way. So let's finish our discussion by covering ways you can add more time and more cost savings to your residents' living experience. Brands that simplify customer decision-making are 115% more likely to be recommended. Let's just take a minute to sit on that for a second, because that is such an important concept and statistic that we should not ignore. Brands that simplify customer decision making are 115% more likely to be recommended. Why would you want to pass up that opportunity? If you can implement easy ways to make the decision-making process more simple, just think about all the traffic you could have come to your site and to your property because, so-and-so saying, oh my goodness, if you're looking for a place to live, you need to live at XYZ. They make it so easy for you. It would take more time and energy for me to have to move out. I love them. They make it so easy. Think about all the traffic that you would have coming to both your website and to your property. Do not pass that opportunity up. We're going to talk about ways that you can help make the decision-making process and just add convenience to their lives. First way, in this economy, saving money is paramount. I don't care what your budget is. I don't care what price point, what salary you make. We're all trying to save money, right? If you can find time in your day to share discounts like you see here from local businesses on Facebook, you'd be helping your residents out tremendously. Just share if you uncover any type of deal or discount. Make sure you're sharing that on Facebook. This is something that is not vital to leasing, but it's going to say, all right, for your resident, all right, these people really care about things that are important to me, like cost savings. And that, believe it or not, it's one of those things that's going to help retain them. Another thing that's going to add convenience is cross-promoting with local businesses. Franchises like Pizza Hut or Domino's absolutely love to work with apartment communities because it's extremely symbiotic. It helps everybody. It gives exposure to both partners and gives an exclusive deal to the purchaser. So the end user, the resident at that apartment community is going to get a $6 pizza as opposed to the $10 pizza that you get anywhere else. It's an extremely symbiotic process in partnership, and it's a win-win for everyone. Speaking of convenience, we've just introduced FR Mobile's Text a Resident, Text a Prospect, which is going to add more ease to your marketing strategy. And with this, you can attract more renters, you can keep them excited about your community while helping you outshine your competition. Again, this is a win-win for you and your residents. This is easy to use, and these are tools that are going to help you amplify your reach to capture more apartment shoppers. And one thing that's so great about this is that you can be one of the first 100 customers to sign up for this 6-month Text a Resident, Text a Prospect agreement. So if you're interested in reaching out to your residents and prospects via mobile devices, which we saw 53.9% of them wanted to be contacted on a smart device, you can text TARDEMO, TAR demo, to 47-368 for more information. And the first 100 customers to sign up for this 6-month agreement receive 60 days free. So that's 2 months free added on to this great cost savings for you. Again, if you're interested, make sure you get in touch with your For Rent rep and they can lead you in the right direction. Okay, considering how much ground we've covered today, you can't leave without some valuable links, right? So we're going to go over those now. And for the most part, we've tweeted all of these links out. If you're on Twitter, hashtag FRMSchat, these links were tweeted out to you. But if you're not on Twitter, I'm going to share these links with you right now. So just hold tight. It seems as though my chat's not working, so make sure that you're on Twitter. And another thing is, if you're not getting these links today, if you're not on Twitter, we will definitely send these links to you in a follow-up email. We always send you guys the recording and the follow-up email after every webinar, so we will share this with you then as well. So in ending things, we loved your interaction. We really appreciate your participation, and we want you to use these resources to help you shift sentiment and create community culture. This is what these links are meant to do. And we also hope to see you in our August session. So we've chatted or we've tweeted out this social media training calendar for August. So that's up and running. So if you want to get a head start on August and kind of schedule out, what your schedule might be and include one of our sessions, these sessions go anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes to an hour-long session. So they meet anyone at the time that they might have. So at this time, I'm happy to take, any questions you may have. If you've shared any questions with us on Twitter, after the webinar, I'm going to jump on Twitter and interact with you there. So make sure you don't leave. Make sure you're still using hashtag #FRMSchat because I'm about to go from our webinar straight to Twitter. So I'll meet you there in a couple seconds. And, as any questions start to come in, we're going to get ready to announce the moment you've been waiting for, which is our winner. So I'm going to announce the winner. And our winner is Melinda74. So Melinda74, we appreciate your interaction with us on Pinterest. Oh my goodness, I'm getting all my social channels confused. We appreciate your interaction with us on Twitter. And what we want you to do is please direct message APTS for rent. So please direct message Apartments for Rent on Twitter so we can get your information so we can give you your $20 gift card. We appreciate your participation. And we're going to be running this every month. So make sure you're interacting with us on Twitter. You will be rewarded. So again, thanks to all of you who are listening. We hope that you can take multiple ideas and apply them to your social strategy. And if you want to check out, again, like I said, any upcoming webinars, feel free to click that social media training calendar link. And make sure you follow us and you like us on all of our social channels. We absolutely love interacting with you. But at this time, on behalf of ForRent Media Solutions, I appreciate you listening, and we will see you next month. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.